Hey, everybody, you're listening to and watching the Comic Book Bears podcast. I'm Bill Zanowitz.
I'm Bryan Pittard.
And I'm Steve Morey.
And we are your hairy, heavy homos that talk about comic books, but you don't have to be a hairy, heavy homo to listen in, or in this case, stream in. We had advertised that we were going to be all four in the chair tonight, but unfortunately, Brother Caleb had a bit of a family emergency, so I'm not completely ruling out him popping in before the end of the night. Don't know, but as of now, it's just going to be the three of us. But we have Bryan back, and that's a really, really, really good thing. And this is your first post-COVID appearance.
Yes, no.
brother.
I am recovered post-COVID, post-Omicron, post-whatever. Yeah, I'm feeling much better. Thanks for all of the concerns that were expressed to me by all of us. It really does help when you know and you try to reach out and people, just check in. It's always appreciated.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But Bryan, also, I don't know if you remember this, but the last time you were on, you raised the question. Now, none of us have gotten COVID yet. We're like, no, haven't you?
I jinxed it. I did. It happens.
So sorry to hear that, but
Nah.
we're very happy that both you and Brandon are feeling much better. And
I will tell you this. I
horrible.
earned it. We absolutely earned our COVID. Some people get COVID just going to the grocery store, or they go to a family whatever, or they just have lunch. We went to Greece and Amsterdam, and we spent 10 days over in those countries, and we earned our COVID. So there you go.
Well, I mean, there are worse ways to get it, to come down with it rather than
Worse
something
situations,
really cool and fun with
yeah.
lots of great pictures. Loved seeing the pictures.
Mm-hmm.
Made me super jealous.
I highly recommend Greece. It's a beautiful country, and always get out of the big cities and go to the islands because it's so much prettier and so much more interesting. But yes, Greece was amazing. Amsterdam, on the other hand, I think that's who gave us COVID. So it's still a beautiful city. I would go back, but just got to watch out for those Dutch.
I've gotten many other things in Amsterdam, so yeah. My best friend and I, before he got married, we used to do an annual London, Amsterdam, London, or Amsterdam, London, Amsterdam trip.
Ooh,
yeah, we
fancy.
Well, not fancy. We were just young and stupid, I got into a lot of trouble there. Yeah. My favorite thing in Amsterdam, I know it's changed somewhat, but I'll just go when my experience was the Heineken brewery. Did you have a chance to go there, Bryan?
No.
Okay.
No.
At the time, it was about the dollar equivalent today of like $10. So it wasn't much. And what happened is you go through this tour and they, go through all this stuff about Heineken and how in the United States they didn't have the cans with the red star because they were worried that would connotate communism and, all this stuff. And that there actually is a slight different formulation between what's sold in Europe and what's sold in other parts of the world, blah, 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 blah. Then you get to the end of the tour and it's 75 minutes of drinking.
My goodness.
And
they hook up the hose.
We went at 10 a.m. and the day was shot. I mean, I peed everywhere. I peed everywhere you could possibly think of. Behind a car, like in the alley of a church. I mean, just over into the canal, just like out in broad daylight. I peed everywhere that day. Everywhere.
Well, that was not what I expected you to go with this story, but
everywhere.
I'm glad you did.
Everywhere. I peed everywhere. I made my mark.
Yeah. We have David Toby joining us. Boys!
Hello, David.
Hello,
hey,
David.
Yeah.
How's it
I
going?
actually went to my LCS, I guess it's my LCS now, and I found Nottingham for Free Comic Book Day. I know you guys already talked about this, but I got the Free Comic Book issue, and I think I got Nottingham number 5. I got to go back and look, but I was very proud to find David's work there, and I was just so thrilled to know that it was there, because I have not been able to find it. It has been sold out, and I think I just got really lucky. Yep,
yeah,
there it is.
Yep, there it is. Yeah, I finally got my copy in my DCBS box, because again, the Free Comic Book Day was gone out of my LCS, out of every LCS that I've LCS and local other stores.
Yeah.
We also have Tony Gilkinson.
Hey Tony, how's it going?
Hola, handsome bears. Hola, Tony.
Big virtual hug for Tony.
Yay!
Big virtual hug this week for Tony.
Yeah.
Well, I'm glad you guys are joining
good
us.
Stuff.
So, usually we start off with things like Geek Gets in news. I gotta say, there hasn't been much news in the week since we've recorded. Not a lot. There was one controversy. Steve, I don't know how much you want to talk about it, because in my opinion, it's a nothing burger, but I do know people were offended. So,
well, and and I think it depends on. I do think it depends a lot generationally. Like, a lot of younger comic readers who grew up reading a lot of their comics digitally are big supporters of online comics and the comics industry, and so this kind of was probably noticed a lot more in those circles than it was in like the floppy readers among us. But Webtoons recently went through a print ad campaign in I think it was the New York subway system and New York City.
no,
and
Chicago and London.
Oh, was it?
Chicago.
It was in London.
Yeah.
Oh, great.
Chicago and London.
So within those two, and the big sort of ads, but I don't know what the ad company was thinking, but one of the big one of the big issues with the ads is that it kind of downplayed the quality or the importance of comics as a whole, and especially sort of like web comics, where one of the lines that really got him into trouble was comics are the sneaky side hustle of literature, which it is really insulting. It is. It's just insulting.
It's just like a shitty ad campaign. It's not.
Is.
I mean, I don't doubt Webtoon appreciates the people that they have under their in their stable. I just think it was a shitty ad campaign that's using a word that's very popular in the vernacular, and
side hustle.
Yeah,
that's not.
Hustle. Yeah,
it's comic. Like, some people actually do make their living with comics, so it's not a side hustle. But then also it just really downplays the medium, and
I thought it was stupid, but I didn't think it was offensive. That's the way I was. Stupid, but not offensive.
Yeah, but a lot of the creators, of course, who they're not privy to the ad campaigns. It's not they have no input. Were expressly offended by this, because hey, this is the company that's supposedly publishing them and supporting them, and their ad campaign is making it look like this is just sort of like our creators is just kind of like their side gig, and who cares, which was not great. And David puts it here. It's like, it's a case of who approved this, and really it was people who don't read comics and didn't think it was a big deal. So there was a lot of chatter. I read about it first on Twitter, on comics Twitter, because of course they were very vocal about it, and then read a little bit more. Within a day, they basically apologized, and I think Webtoons is going to be taking down not all of them, but most of the ones that were, with the more, I'd say, patronizing slogans. So, not a great move for them, and not so great for basically what is the largest online comics platform right now. But yeah, I mean, other than that, not a lot of other news. So we do have John Runyon is joining us.
Hey, John.
Comic Book Bears Assemble. Thank you very much, John.
I've been so busy this week in my new role. Is tonight's John's night for a show, or is that
usually
Tuesday?
Yes. So I'm apologizing to John right now. It's like, hey, sorry.
Sorry about that.
This was the only night, unfortunately, that we could all get together. this week. So
Yeah.
fight it out in the
happens.
ratings on YouTube.
And you know what? Also, do you know what was tonight as well? The supporters of our friend, dear friend of the show, Dave Apersol.
Yes.
His Tommy Dakota pod. He has like a live stream with Vinny Rico, his artist, and they were doing a little live stream about an hour ago. So
Oh, cool.
Yeah, at 8
Wednesday's
o'clock.
a busy night. It's a busy
Yeah.
night.
Wednesday
It's
It's a busy night. Wednesday nights, baby.
Everybody's
Popular night. That's why we do Thursdays. Yeah. I did a quick
John
video,
making
no
us feel
worries.
better. I did
Yeah.
a quick video, no worries. Well, thank you,
Yeah.
John.
And we're going to be seeing
And
John
we're
in
grateful that we
person
can join you
next
to
week.
join us.
My God, we're
Oh,
getting to
next
see him
week.
next week.
so
Next week.
jealous.
Next Thursday, a week from tomorrow.
Mhm.
A week from tomorrow.
That's
I
my
really hope.
first plane ride since 2019.
Whoa!
Wow.
I haven't had cause to, you know.
Yeah.
Had a work trip to Dallas Fort Worth that just kept getting postponed and eventually canceled, and we finally had it.
Yep.
Finally had it on a live stream, a Zoom meeting. Could have been an email.
Yeah.
But it's like I missed. My company has their own university, and you're treated like a king while you're there. It's there's food all over the place. There's state of the art gym. You have to sit through these asinine workshops, but people go there to relax. And it can get really hot in the summer, but that's what I'm missing. I want the prime rib. I really want that.
I will tell you, as much as that sounds amazing, by the way, I am so traveled out. But I will say, if not for work obligations and other events next weekend, including but not limited to Pride here in Seattle, I would absolutely be there with you guys. I am very upset. And moreover, Charlotte is my new second home because my family just moved there.
Really?
So I have a feeling
Nice.
next year I will not only be there with hopefully, at least Steve, but hopefully Bill and John and Caleb and everybody. I might actually be bringing my nephew to a comic convention.
Hey.
Nice.
So I'm very, very glad
right.
Heroes is back. I miss it, and I will miss you guys having fun there in the blazing hot comic bookville that is downtown Charlotte.
We're just really hoping that the AC in the convention center stays as strong as it has in previous years, where we can just enjoy the space inside and then just quickly hustle from block to block.
Let me tell you, it's really good. We got the Westin this year. Really good.
Westin.
Yeah.
Man,
I've never stayed anywhere else in Charlotte. It's always been the Westin.
There's no need.
I've never stayed in the Westin, but you're right. It is lovely. And actually, though, did I tell you, though? I think I told you when I was there last time, I brought Brandon. We actually got a room with a hot tub in it at not the Courtyard, at the Hampton Inn of all places. And
Hampton Inn?
I know. It was surreal. I didn't even know that was an option until you're scrolling through the room types.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, I'll never not stay here with a hot tub in the room. Are you kidding me? It's like a love hotel, baby. I mean, come on.
Mm-hmm. It is. And one of the stays in Jersey City, I got the presidential suite, and they had a bathtub that was like the entire bathroom. It was that big. And I should have had a photo shoot in that thing, because it was like one of those old timey standing tubs,
Oh, wow.
Perfect.
Yeah. I'm still waiting. Steve's still waiting to hear on a suite upgrade. Might happen, might not.
Hey,
don't know. But
as long as we have a little fridge to keep all the lunch meats and snacky things and all of your Powerades in. To keep them cool, I think we'll be good with that. But it would be nice to get a suite upgrade. That would be sweet.
That would be sweet.
Sweet upgrade.
Okay, so some of the things you get at Comic Cons are Geek Gets. So I guess we can cover if we got anything. I didn't get much in the week that we've in the week between episodes. But what I did get was very much along the lines like we talked about last week, things that you ordered in 2021 that finally came in the mail. So
Yes.
last time I had my Ra's al Ghul and Green Arrow Mego figures, and this time it's Captain Marvel and Black Adam, and these are Topps
Nice.
exclusive. Topps, the trading card company, they had a relationship with Mego, and so these costumes are not going to be on the main retail version. They're different costumes. So
Interesting.
yep.
Very cool.
So that's the one Geek Get. And it's also so stupid because why they mail these out separately, I have no idea. Black Adam, his trip from Fort Lauderdale was kind of okay. Um, the Shazam, he took a tour. He was in Pennsylvania. He was up in Springfield, Massachusetts. Then came to New Jersey. Then left New Jersey, went back to Pennsylvania, and then from Pennsylvania somehow got to Jersey back again. It was like clear it got on the wrong truck.
Is it
Yeah.
is it USPS? Is that what how they
This was
shipped it?
FedEx. This was
Oh,
FedEx.
FedEx.
Yeah.
See, I have a package coming from Portland, of all places, not far, and it arrived in Seattle last week, according to the tracker. But then it left Seattle, like regional, whatever, again, and now it just says delayed. I'm like, where did it go? I had a package last year that went from like the San Diego maybe to Hawaii, and then back up to here. It was bizarre. Like I don't understand this world.
So what happens? So what happens sometimes in those cases? It's because they
talk to the guy in
scanned it.
logistics here. Yeah,
That's fair.
They scanned it to on a truck that was going to another location, but physically it never left the location it got scanned at. And so when they get the manifest and they're going through everything, they're like, this thing's not there. Then they do like an APB. They basically go back to wherever it came from. They say, hey, can you go check your document? You find it. So that's usually when you find those weird things where it's like it was here and then it was there and then it was back here and then it's because it never got here in the first place. Though they do have certain situations where it might go from San Diego to Hawaii. It gets to Hawaii. Somebody's like, why the hell's it in this? Why the hell's it here? And then they send it back.
Yeah, like I figured it was that, like a sort of a misrouting, or it was like, well, it's more efficient somehow to ship it on a container ship, and then somehow fly it, or vice versa. Like you never know these days. It's such a crazy supply chain shenanigans, right?
Yeah.
Anyway,
well, with FedEx, they will always try to find an excuse to have it go through either Memphis or Louisville, Kentucky. Mostly Memphis, just because that's where the hub is, the main hub. But like, no matter where it's going, you'd be like,
and yet I've never
seen California. It's got to go to Memphis first.
I've never seen DCBS through Memphis.
No.
Never seen it,
but it's not always FedEx that delivers DCBS. Yeah. Sometimes I've gotten USPS.
It's mostly DCBS for me. I mean, it's mostly FedEx for me.
Yeah,
it's been a couple of times. Yeah,
it's been a mix for me. But yeah.
So, did anybody else get anything kind of cool?
So I have a Geek Get, but it's also what I'm talking about. So I will show it now, but we will talk about it again. And that is Miracles, or is it The Miracle? The Miracles by friend of the show, Joe Glass. And this is a Kickstarter that actually I backed, last year, I think.
That was talk about 2019, 20, 21, yeah.
But I interviewed Joe and his artist, who's Underwood. Forgot his first name, but yeah, like I remember interviewing them when I was doing that weekly interview series for Flame On. So I think it was 2021, and it finally came out. I've had this for a few weeks. I mean, let's be honest. I don't get a lot of Geek Gets, so this is kind of it these days. But anyway, I will be talking about this later on the show, so stay tuned.
Yeah, it's so nice when you get a Kickstarter that you enjoy.
Yeah. Yeah, we're not going to talk about that.
Ooh, shade.
It's not shade. Look, they put their work in it. You got what you was advertised, in terms of the product. I just didn't like it.
No.
I just didn't like it. I was so excited to, because I really want to spotlight, these independent works, But
Where's
no,
that shade button?
no,
I was getting
it
the
just
fan
didn't
out for
work.
my shade.
And
you know.
we've all had the Kickstarters where we're like, whoa. You know? And then we have ones that are just there was one Kickstarter, I forget what it was, but it was like it wasn't anybody we knew. It was just the description looked like it was right on the money, and it was. And I'm trying to remember what that was.
Mm,
So don't want to besmirch people, and as somebody who's had one, it's a tremendous amount of work. The
yeah.
time when it's fulfillment, it's basically a second job at that point.
Hmm.
And I give anybody credit, like John Westoff. My God, how many has he had?
Oh yeah.
We're talking about 8, 9, 10 probably at this point. It's a tremendous amount of work to do these, and my hat always goes off to people. I just
Yeah.
got one that stunk. That's all.
Well, I think that's one of the biggest things with Kickstarter is that if they can get an actual product out and in the hands of the people who supported them, I think that
That's a
they
win.
won. That's a
Yeah,
win right there. And if it
absolutely.
happens to also be as great as the supporters were hoping it would be, that's a million times. That's 50 feet of icing on top of that cake. So,
This
and
this
actually,
and
speaking of successful
product in this
Kickstarters,
one.
yeah, well, and
So
speaking of John
someday I'll
Westhoff and
reopen
successful
that Etsy store.
Kickstarters,
Yes,
exactly, yeah,
that's so
Part Time
great.
Comics, they
Yeah.
got it. They got their Kickstarter last week.
Mhm.
After we were talking about it on the show, and by the end of the show, they were fully funded. It was
Funded,
great.
yeah, that was great.
So I'm just so excited for that. And I'm
Yeah, and
looking
John's
forward to
always
getting
so
on
good
it.
with the extras.
Oh
You know,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
And for Bulletproof Chicken, he remarked a copy of the comic where it was just exclusive dialogue to the just hand and the shit he was saying in that one. I mean, you turn a page and there's a chicken with a gun, and out of the like out of the out of in the war balloon is fuck George Harrison. Like, made no sense, but I don't want to part with that book ever.
Why George Harrison? What did he
Oh,
do?
fuck George Harrison. How about you, Steve? You get anything in the news?
I did have something I wanted to show off from my time in Denver and going to the Meow Wolf exhibit there, Convergence Station. Unfortunately, I did not bring it up here with me, so I don't have it to show it off. But I did get the guidebook to Convergence Station, which is absolutely fantastic. I'm such a nerd for things where it's like language guides, travel logs, travel guides, all those things that really sort of bring out factoids about culture and all sorts of stuff. And this is for a completely made up world or worlds that go into this exhibit. So it was just wonderful, lots of fun. And if you get the guidebook, you can actually do a lot of extra or see a lot of extra things at Convergence Station that you otherwise would not be able to decipher. So it's one of those things where it's like, yeah, sure, it's swag and merch, but it also has a purpose, and so it's kind of cool. I like that, just extra fun puzzles.
Mhm.
So,
Nice.
but I didn't bring it with me, so I can't show it. I'll show it next time. It's fine.
The moment's past, brother.
It's gone. It's
That book's
gone.
out of print.
We'll never talk about it again.
All right. All right, but speaking of books that are in print, we can start talking about the funny books. We're 24 minutes in, so we really should start talking about what the first 2 words of the podcast are about, and that's comic books. So I'll start as I always do with Steve. Steve, what is the first book you're reading that you're enjoying?
Well, I picked it up on a whim after seeing it advertised in a lot of image books, and I knew absolutely nothing about it other than the people working on it going in, and I was absolutely not at all disappointed that I went ahead and took a chance on it, and that is Twig, which is the new series by Scotty Young in writing duties, and on art it's Kyle Strahm. Who, if you are familiar with the work of Kyle Strahm, he does a lot of like gross, really horrific body horror type artwork. I've been reading him from Spread, and then also Unearth last year and the year before. I mean, talk about like really just gross and crazy looking visceral type
If you
art.
want gross for him, Pumpkinhead.
Oh.
That is like that's like crossed level gross.
Oh, hey, Spread had some moments. I mean, Spread was pretty crazy with Justin Jordan. But here, it's very different. It's just turned on its head. Scotty Young has created this, really sweet, fun adventure story with the character of Twig and his best friend, Splat, who you can see here on top of his head. And it's just it really reminds me so much of Dark Crystal, like the original sort of world of Henson's Dark Crystal, sort of fully realized everything from the flora, the fauna, the weather, just general people within the world taking concepts and things for granted as just, hey, everything you hear is fully realized. And with Kyle Strom's, because he's doing both the drawing and actually I think Jean-Francois Beaulieu is doing the colors, and he's doing a fantastic job just creating these beautiful images. And it's not something I would have expected from Kyle Strom. Not that he's not a great artist, but that he would have these just really gorgeous, fun, very dreamlike images. And this is one of my favorites here. This is very early on in the first issue, where Twig and his friend Splat are off to start his journey as I believe they call him a placeling. So basically someone who just goes on quests for a purpose. And so he goes and talks to the sentient mountain, goes on another little journey with some of the creatures that live underground there, and gets a gem. And it's his job to take the gem to the Pathfinder to tell him what he's supposed to do with it. Of course, when he gets to the Pathfinder, Pathfinder looks like he's been dead for about 100 years. So that Twig's, part of the conflict early on in this is that Twig's been asleep and he slept in a little bit too late. And now he's kind of behind in his quest. But that kind of hits you like, how far behind is he if this guy's been dead for 100 years and this guy hands out the quest? But it's just fun. It's exciting. There's a lot of like, let's go to this place. Oh no, we messed this up. Let's go over here. Let's see if we can fix it. Oh, let's go over here and let's fix it. And there's some stakes. There's a lot of great sort of tense moments. But again, it's couched in this very beautiful, very colorful, and dreamlike world that's been created here between Scotty and Kyle and Jean-Francois, of course. Nate Picos rounds out the creative team and doing the lettering, the logo, and the design of the series, which again is absolutely gorgeous. So I really recommend picking it up. It's a short series. I believe it's going to be 5 issues, but it'll probably continue after that because I think it's doing really well. Some really great variant covers if you're into that. But a lot of fun. I recommend it. Twig by Scotty Young, Kyle Strom, Jean-Francois Beaulieu, and Nate Picos, put out by Image.
Nice. That might be something I look for in a trade.
Yeah,
especially with its short run. Yeah,
definitely.
No,
that's good.
All right, over to Bryan. Bryan, tell us about something you're reading you're enjoying.
So I do not have I have no physical comics other than the one I showed earlier, but I did get new comics today because it is Wednesday. And one that caught my eye, as it sometimes will do on the Marvel app, is Hulkling and Hulkling and my brain's not working. Wiccan. Thank you. Oh my God. I was pulling it up. So Hulkling and Wiccan,
the DC guy to the rescue. Okay.
Yeah, no, well, but you're X-Men, so don't. Oh, that's the X-Men. That's Young
Avengers.
That's
Young Avengers. Yeah. I only have 2 issues of Young Avengers.
Really?
They're worth a fortune now. But Luckily.
I had them too, and I sold the collection. Anyway,
But
doesn't
it's like
matter.
I've read them digitally mostly. So
This is
I know.
evidently a new series. I'm not going to try to adjust my camera, but this is a new series that is coming out. And part of the reason I read it because I like the characters. I like Young Avengers. They're on my radar, but I didn't read the most recent. What was the one where Hulkling turns into the Emperor of the Kree Empire?
Oh, the big Empire.
Empire with the Y. Yeah.
Empire.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah.
I didn't read that. I've not really cared about Marvel Cosmic in a while, I will say. But I read this because Josh Trujillo, I think is how maybe you say his name, not Trujillo. Trujillo is he is a writer who has caught my eye, and I actually just backed a Kickstarter by him that I will mention in the Woofs of the Week section. And I was like, hey, cool, you're writing for Marvel. I don't know if he has before, but either way, it's cool to see a young upcoming queer writer like himself. And the cover caught my eye. It was very like anime, kind of almost looked a little, I don't want to say fan art in a derogatory sense, but it had a certain style that I associate with a lot of like fan and more young art on the cover. So anyway, I was very interested in this. Artist was Jody Nishijima, colorist from Matt Milla, and letter was VC's Ariana Marr. And like I said, evidently it's a new series that's coming out, and I think that this might be the first for a little while as like a teaser. And it's a full issue, but like, I got the impression that they may have done this as a one-off, and then it was well received by editorial, and so they're like, oh yeah, we're gonna do more. But what it is if you're not familiar with Hulkling and Wiccan, they are together. They are married now. And Hulkling is the emperor of the Kree Skrull combined empire. So they are living in Kree Skrull space in the palace of his Emperor Dore the Eighth, which I guess is Hulkling's official title. And they're living together. Wiccan is basically hanging out as his consort and the royal magician. And they're living their best life. And there is, of course, adventure that presents itself. And it is in the form of a like portable gaming console. It just kind of pops into existence with Wiccan kind of after like they've been laying down in bed together. So like you already get a little bit of sexy, but not a lot. It's Marvel. We're not going for anything too sexy here. But you get a little bit of their life and how they're happy, and they have a little dinner party with North Star and his husband, and then Iceman, and so they have a little gay get together in the palace, and then this little device pops up, and Wiccan plays on it, or like is like, well, what is this? And you basically find out that Agatha Harkness, his great aunt. Does that sound right? Sure. Yeah.
She's something.
Because
I don't know what.
She's
but
something.
Yeah.
But for those who are passive, like MCU folks, of course, Agatha. It's Agatha all along, blah, 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 Agatha, right? So she is not related, but in the comics, she kind of is a mentor for the Scarlet Witch. And so, oh God, what's going on, Bill?
I just love Bill's reaction to that.
I so want a t-shirt that says Agatha all along, blah, 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 blah.
Right. And stuff.
Yeah, you can hear it in your head now. You're good. So she's the mentor of Scarlet Witch. Scarlet Witch, of course, Wiccan is one of her children that were not real, but now are real. That whole thing. So whatever that makes Agatha to Wiccan, that's the relationship there. So Agatha basically gives this gift to them because she was not invited to the marriage or the wedding. And the gift allows them to explore, not with their consent, by the way. Agatha's not good at getting consent. Don't trust her on any of your scenes. She is not going to play by the rules. She is basically letting them explore alternate paths of their lives. So with Wiccan, it is hooking up or being like trying to help this Eidolon character, who I guess was one of his past like relationships, and I don't remember the whole story there, so whatever. And you don't need to. And then Hulkling gets to explore his relationship with Go Big, And again, this must be from Empire because I have no idea what this is, except that if you're familiar with orc porn, you kind of get the idea here of what's going on. This Go Big is like this blue orc looking creature. And so basically they're like exploring what if they hooked up and stayed with these other people and worked together. And it lets them just have these little misadventures for an issue. And of course, as you would expect in this kind of thing, this kind of story, the reality, the illusion of this false or other life fades, and somebody does something to unravel the spell, and they get reunited and they're happily ever after and blah, blah, blah. Or are they? That's, of course, the conceit at the end. There's still lingering doubt, or at least lingering questions that they may explore in the series. I don't know. Either way, I love the style. This is actually the art by I forgot the Toshijima. Like it's really very like young, but also manga influenced art. Very nice, really pretty. And I just think it was a cute little story. I don't know that it's anything profound, and it didn't really like, open up my eyes to all brand new paradigms of reality. But the little story by Josh Trujillo and Jody Nishijima is a lovely little Pride nugget in this month of Pride. And so if you are a fan of Marvel, Hulkling and or Wiccan, you should pick this up. It's Hulkling and Wiccan number 1. And yeah, I don't know. Is this on anybody else's DCBS? Did we know about this?
I knew about it, but I'm so far behind on that stuff that I figured, someday when I'm, very ill or retired, that's when I finally get the Marvel Unlimited and catch up on all this stuff.
That's fair.
What I've read involving these two characters, I've enjoyed it all. I just, they're not they're not a marquee situation for me that I would always chase. It's a shame we don't have Caleb here because he's a huge fan of Young Avengers and Hulkling and Wiccan in particular. So yeah. What about you, Steve?
See, that's the thing. I do love the characters. I was not enamored with Empire and only read sort of like the X-Men tie-in series, the tie-in mini for that. There's a lot going on.
To see what I have.
There's a lot going on in that side of the universe over at Marvel that I haven't been following in years and years and years. So I'm with you there. I've kind of fallen out of the cosmic, storylines and really don't know what's going on so much. But yeah, I mean, my Marvel weekly buys are basically limited to the X books, and that's enough to kind of drain your pockets alone when it comes to those. Because there's, I think, I want to say in 1 month alone, there were like 30 titles or something crazy like that. When you had like the X Deaths and Lives of Wolverine coming out like in the same week, and all the other books sort of ending and restarting, and yeah. So no money left over for other Marvel.
Yeah, I just checked what I have of Empire. I have Empire number 0, Avengers, Empire number 1, the Empire Handbook, Empire X-Men 1 through 4, and then I have the the digital trade of Fantastic Four Volume 6, which is titled Empire. I'm so far behind on the Dan Slott Fantastic Four. I own more than I've read by far. And Road to Empire, the Kree Skrull War. So I have a few. But out of what I've read, it's just been like that first issue of Empire and then the X-Men series, like you said, Steve. I think we're like in total alignment there.
Yeah, I think I read that 0. I think the 0 issue was like a free comic book day thing last year.
And the nice thing about that Empire X-Men is like that was like a weekly series. That was like there and gone. Yeah, it was really quick.
It was weekly, and it had so much less to do with what was going on in Empire, and just more to do with introducing those crazy old ladies that are bioengineers.
Yeah,
which are a lot of fun.
Love them.
I like them.
Oh my god, they were so good.
Agnes, put in your hearing aid and get over here with your gun. Like I was just like, oh great.
Okay.
Cool.
What was that? Was that somebody joining us?
Cool.
Oh, okay. Oh, cool. Ooh, okay. Well, here's a comment that made me go ooh, and again, it's a shame we don't have Caleb because this was a comic that made him cry, and I get it. Um, and it is Action Comics 2022 annual. This is the version with Francisco Francavilla cover. There's also a beautiful variant cover by Steve Rude, and the writers are the regular writer on Action, Philip Kennedy Johnson. He's joined by Cy Spurrier. I don't know if they made a delineation between, as you can tell on the cover, A Tale of Two Titans. This talks about Superman and Mongol here. Um, Currently in the Action Comics series, Superman is on Warworld, and it's going on entirely too long. They got to wrap it up, uh, please. It's just going on too long. The artists here, and they do split between Dale Eaglesham taking care of the Superman story, and Ian Churchill, which is a name I haven't heard in a while. Ian Churchill. I don't know if he's been active, but I have not heard that name since for some time. And what's nice is they have the same colorist and letterer for the annual Lee Lowridge on colors and then Dave Sharp on lettering, which kind of nicely ties it together. And you get exactly what you anticipate in a sense when you see a cover like this. It's a counterbalance of uh, the hero who's all about hope, Superman, and the tyrant who's all about despair, Mongol. But we see them at points before they are Superman and the ruler Mongol in this. um, the Superman section was by far the more affecting one, I think, because you can't really relate to Warworld. I don't have an an emotional tie to something like that in my life. But um and it's you know, completely ingrained in nature versus nurture and the importance of mothers and the importance of guidance that young people receive. And the Mongol storyline takes place before he is a ruler, and he and his mother are banished to another area of Warworld that's kind of inhospitable, and there's all kinds of stuff going on. It wasn't really anything that I walked away with, with like I said, a real emotional resonance. The Superman sequence, though, oh my God. Um, so uh, we have a point, as I mentioned before, that it's Clark before he is Superman. There is a new kid in town who's a bully, and the kid's name is Caleb. So I can appreciate how he might have uh, walked away from that story with a few heartstrings pulled. Um, and Caleb is a bully, and he even lashes out at other members of Clark's family. And you see a peek into Caleb's home life, and it's rough. It's a real rough situation. And we also have a reveal about Martha Kent that I don't think has ever been played upon before. Little bit of a recon about her a past history with a health issue, uh, but um, that's almost ancillary to the story. Just that it's a mechanism of bullying, plain and simple. And at this point, Clark is using his super breath to kind of, take Caleb down a few pegs at some point. He's using his powers, and neither of his parents are really cool with that. And as the story goes on, you see the importance of forgiveness, and you see the importance of rationality and example, and a beautiful sequence at the end. And we see what Caleb is like um, toward, in the present day. And it was focused around one comment that Clark made, was that you don't have to be like this. Now, we all have crossroads in our life, but very not very often is there a line associated with it. That's beautifully resonant. But um, Caleb walks away taking that advice, and it's a very affecting story. Like I said, I haven't been enamored of action. It's well executed, but it's a storyline that really has to wrap up. But for it, for a side hustle diversion, let's just tie it in with something that was said earlier. It's a really affecting story, and you don't have to know a damn thing about Warworld to enjoy the story. Very well done, very well done, and it just, um, just Dale Eaglesham on Superman. My God, you know, my God, just so beautiful. And you can even see here the counterbalance between. And sorry for people who are listening, but by the issue, you'll understand. The bleakness of Warworld, and even the same color structure here, but that it's Superman against it. It's just a beautifully executed book, and I really enjoyed it. And some of the reviews have said like this might go down as like one of the principal Superman stories, and I don't
Mm.
doubt it. It's a really well executed comic. So, yeah.
Well, that's good to hear. I know there've been some really prominent Superman stories in the past several years that really kind of stand out. I know a couple of years ago was the story with Crypto and the Shadow, not the Shadow, the Negative Zone, not Negative Zone, my brain.
Phantom Zone.
Phantom Zone. Thank you. That got a lot of attention as well. And I know you had talked about this on the show, and it was pretty emotionally resonant.
Yeah.
It just sounds like there's, I know Superman doesn't get a lot of attention from a lot of people, even though he does have some very prominent books and selling pretty well. But there's some great storytelling going on there.
It's been a really good couple
Superman
of
Red and
years.
Blue has been great.
Yeah, I mean, Tom Taylor's work, with John Kent has been great.
Oh yeah, Kal-El was great.
The shame of
great.
Luke, I liked more than I didn't like Bendis's run. I'll be honest. There was a lot of things from that run I enjoyed. But just before that, just a great run from Tomasi. That was mostly focused on the notion of Superman being a father, and then Tomasi going on to the Super Sons. And the story that you referenced was very early on, not very early on, but kind of the midpoint in Morrison's Action Comics run from the New 52, and then going into that, Greg Pak had a wonderful run on Action in there. So we haven't had. It's been a good time to be a Superman fan, and a book like this, because again, I'm saying like Philip Kennedy Johnson is a really good writer. He's just on an arc that is, it's, no one's saying time out for him, and
it is winding down. It is winding down because I do hear
he's dead. At least for now.
I think it's September. Is
Brian, the principal members of the Justice League, they're all dead.
Oh yeah, no. I've been sort of ancilarily tracking that.
That's gonna stick. They're gone.
Yeah. They're gone
not
forever.
Coming back.
No more Wonder Woman. No more Batman. No more.
But they're actually like they already revealed they're actually in like a bubble world, or each one.
No, they're dead. It's called the Death of the Justice League. It's dead. They're dead. They're dead.
Yeah. So. I'm actually curious about this run. I've read a lot of the Grant Morrison Substack stuff where he talks about sort of dovetailing his Superman and the Authority series into the Warworld stuff. Yeah. Which, based on what I did read, is it's not perfect, but whatever, it's fine. And I like the idea of what they're playing with here, but I think I kind of agree that and they need to. Yeah, they need to move on and wrap it up. It's a little long in the tooth.
But Superman, Son of Kal-El, firing on all cylinders. That's a really good, really good book. Just a different Superman. That's all.
Yeah.
All right, Steve, back to you. Tell us about another book that you're reading that you are enjoying.
Well, speaking of Superman, Son of Kal-El, John Kent, he does make a prominent appearance in one of the stories here in this year's DC Pride book. It's the DC Pride 2022. This is the second year that they're doing this, and it's a compilation of original stories that have been put together for this collection. And again, it's another really great collection of stories. There's some one-off art pages as well. It kind of is a mixed bag. I mean, there are some that are much better than others, but that's with any collection of
That's an
multiple
anthology,
stories.
Yeah,
Yeah, exactly.
you get that with anyone.
And some of my favorites here, and I'm just going to go through very quickly because there's so many contributors. I mean, you've got Stephanie Williams, Rostein, Ted Brandt, Jadzia Axelrod, Danny Fernandez, Trav Moore, Stephanie Phillips. Some really great writers here. Some great artists too. Nick Robles, W. Scott Forbes, Evan Cagle on Teeny Howard's book, Teeny Howard's issue about Joe Malign, the Green Lantern that was out. Oh gosh, what was her
That's how
book
you
called?
pronounce it. I was saying Malian.
I was saying Joe Malign. It might be wrong.
Yeah.
Nobody's reading it to me, so this is the way I pronounce it.
Until she's on Young Justice, that's how we'll know.
And then they'll pronounce it right.
Yeah.
And they're really good. My standout ones that I really enjoyed were the story Up at Bat, which features Alicia Yo, who's a trans woman character from the Batgirl series, actually getting to help Batgirl, who's been injured in a battle with the Moth, and the Moth attacks, and Alicia throws on an old armor costume from Batgirl, and goes to town with her softball bat and defeats the Moth. Really fun. Really great, and the dialogue is, of course, great as well. And that one was done by Jadzia Axelrod and Lynn Yoshi on writing and art, Tamara Bonvillain as the colorist, and Ariana Mayer for lettering. And then also my other favorite was Special Delivery, also featuring another Bat Family character. Special Delivery with Red Robin, where he's carrying a special package for his new boyfriend, and encounters some Gotham villains that he has to take care of before he can get to him and hang out for Pride. That one was written by Trav Moore, also drawn by Trav Moore, with Enrica Aaron Angelini as colorist and Ariana Mar as lettering again. But the number one story in this, and I think it's hands down, I think a lot of people have been talking about it because it's really impactful, and I did tear up, is the final story in this book. And it is actually written by Kevin Conroy himself, the longtime voice of the animated Batman, the original voice of Batman the Animated Series, Bruce Wayne. And it's been adapted here by J-Bone on art, and Aditya, and I'm going to probably mess up her name here, Aditya Bidikar for lettering, Ariana Tuturo and Jessica Chen pretty much helped design the story. And really it's him sort of telling his life story, called Finding Batman. And it's just, he's going through sort of his young, his life growing up. He was part of a very conservative Catholic family, except they had a lot of issues. His father drank a lot, and his parents fought a bunch, and his father attempted suicide. His brother is severely schizophrenic, and just it was not a great family life to him. Of course, he's growing up in the the 50s, 60s, and early 70s, and so he acting is his escape, theater and drama is his escape, and he goes to Juilliard, goes to New York. Is making it work on Broadway, off Broadway, doing the usual hustle that a lot of young actors do there, and getting to be himself as much as possible. And then, of course, AIDS strikes in early 80s and the mid 80s, and things really change for him. So he ends up moving out to LA, and they're going through the same struggles. But I think, just as much as he was able to be himself in New York, for the most part, as much as you could, he encountered a lot more issues, I think, in LA, with homophobia and just stereotyping and all of that. There's a lot of very personal stories in here, and then finally leading up to his reading for this little animated series that hopefully will become something big. With Batman the Animated Series, and it's such a great story, and the way that it's told, it's so simply and so directly, You really hear his voice, which I think most people hear his voice now when they see, Batman reading Batman on the page. But it's very resonant and a very great story. So if anything, if you're on the fence about picking this up, definitely pick it up. For that story alone is worth the price of admission. But there's, again, like I said, some other good stories in here. So you'll find something that you like, in addition to, of course, that Kevin Conroy story. So
Nice.
DC Pride 2022.
Yep. I will be getting my copy early next month. Hopefully early next month with DCBS. I
Yes.
also love that the picture I have with Kevin Conroy, I am wearing a Comic Book Bears t-shirt. And he's tall. He's tall.
Yeah.
I'm short, but he's tall. I'm not that short.
No. You're my height, but then again, I'm not.
Yeah, we're like the same height. We're like the same height,
Yeah.
right? Like,
but it's like 5'8".
Yeah, like Vanity says 5'9", the DMV says 5'8". Yeah.
No, I'm squarely 5'8". There's no vanity there.
I think I shrunk a little bit as I've gotten older, like a tiny bit, a little bit. Or maybe that's just life, dragging me down,
pushing you down.
Yeah.
All that pressure.
All right.
Gravity's a bitch.
Yeah. Over to Bryan. Bryan, tell us about the second book you're reading that you're enjoying.
So this was my Geek Get. It is The Miracles by Joe Glass. And I think it's Vince Underwood. I was going to check that out. Yeah, Vince Underwood. And I actually, again, interviewed them a year ago, back when this Kickstarter was happening. And I got this, I probably got this about a month and change ago. But I didn't get to it until today. So this is very fresh in my mind. And the first thing that really stood out to me reading this after having talked to Joe and Vince about the project is there's a lot of Marvel Man, Mr. Miracle, or not Mr. Miracle, but Miracle Man, Marvel Man, like a lot in this. And I didn't really connect the two talking to him, and maybe I didn't have forgotten, but the conceit of this book is that there is a young high schooler, finds out he has powers, and he has an obsession with a comic book that ended very much sort of on a cliffhanger, but also because of a universe-ending event. And he finds that he has powers, so he thinks he's a superhero, but then he finds out, his life is a lie. It turns out his parents are the comic book heroes that had that, whole cataclysmic universe-altering event, and that they somehow bled through. And actually, this is a great, I will say, this 2-page spread that Vince does is very Morrison-esque. I don't know. That's not the art style, but very, it's probably got a lot of George Perez actually in it, but reminded me of like the Multiversity.
Yeah, it looks very Crisis.
Yes, absolutely. So I will say that, just a little bit more story. The main guy, the Miracle, they call him the Miracle. He is actually gay, and there is a lot of coming out and the lies we have to tell to protect ourselves when we come out or before we come out, and then the revelations of coming out. That's also pretty heavy in this. If anyone has ever been in that position, whether it's because of them being gay or trans or whatever your thing is that you are having to announce to the world, this is very relatable in many ways. So I love that Joe has conflated sort of the whole reality bending, sort of fourth wall breaking, and not fourth wall breaking, but the meta-contextual, like Morrison-y stuff with Miracle Man and with the queer experience. It's a pretty cool blend. And I will also say that Vince Underwood, his art style is interesting. It gives me, who did it give me? It kind of a Mike Allred in some parts, a little bit. Definitely a little George Perez in there, which, of course, a lot of artists these days probably should cite George Perez. if they don't, consciously, they're definitely subconsciously. But there are other artists that certainly kind of have an influence, and I think I talked to Vince a bit about who his influences were. What I also love is he does very retro. And I think this may have been a different artist, but they do a sort of a throwback when they show the comic book scenes. They only do it a couple times, but it's very Kirby-esque in its style. So I like that. I'm a nut for any kind of old school stylistic departures for that effect. It ends with a cliffhanger. It does give you a full story. So, if you did back this as a Kickstarter and you just haven't read it yet, or I believe Joe is finding a way to sell this, so it's not just for Kickstarters. I will have to find the link to where this could be ordered. But certainly if you see him at a show coming up, he probably will have a handful to sell. The cliffhanger suggests that there is a world that he is building with all this. And it's kind of a cool idea that is the sort of cliffhanger part to carry this on. However, it's a pretty good story. You also get a little bit of a gay romance element, some sexy times that are nice. Not again, this isn't like, mature content. Anyone can read this, other than maybe violence or something. But it's good. It's good stuff. I'm really pleased with what Joe has built here. I really hope we get more of it. I'm disappointed if he did pitch just to a major publisher. I don't know that he did, but I feel like it might have had some of the DNA that he might have tried pitching and then got recycled in his own thing. But either way, I would love to have him really get some good success with this. I think this would adapt really well. There's definitely potential for some HBO or streaming service material coming out of this. So yeah, I don't know. Did anybody else get this? Read this?
Nope.
I
It was on my radar, and for some reason, I just forgot about it. I would love to interview Joe. I met him at New York Comic Con a few years ago. And there's a lot to talk about. I mean, the Pride has been a very good legacy seller.
Yeah.
And there's just a lot to talk about. I hope if he is selling this outside of Kickstarter, maybe that's the end. That we can
I will definitely reach out and let him know we talked about it, because I feel like he's a writer who has had brief glimpses and exposures and success, but I don't think he's had that breakthrough, like real huge, like next level, getting whatever work. But I think this is as good a material. This is like his best thing he's done. Like the Pride is great. Don't get me wrong, and I like the diversity of the Pride. This isn't that. It's pretty straightforward. Kind of standard American fare. Whatever. But I think there's a lot of pregnant potential in this world he is building to go further. Honestly, he could even make it a shared universe with Pride. I don't see why that would conflict, and that might be something he's going to get to. And there might even be Easter eggs that I'm not aware of because it's been so long since I read Pride. But I would love to get Joe on here and maybe talk about what's next for the Miracles.
Nice. Okay. The next book I want to talk about is from IDW, and it's the latest miniseries about the Rocketeer. So I have the first two issues of The Rocketeer, The Great Race. It's written and drawn by Stephen Mooney with colors by my friend Len O'Grady. Len's a New Jersey guy by way of Ireland. And actually, my former Thundercast co-host Rob Stager and Len are really tight. So I've known Len for a couple of years. And there's a lot of things I like about this series. IDW has done a pretty good job in being the landlord for the Rocketeer property. The one that is no, I see him over there. Sorry, we chat sometimes on the side. So I'm going back to what I meant to say. IDW has been the home for the Rocketeer, and a lot of the series have been pretty good. Particularly the crossover with the Spirit, that's a really good series if you can seek that out. But one thing that is really great about this particular series, if you are familiar with the classic Rocketeer written and drawn by Dave Stevens, a very important arc is his New York adventure. And this takes place right after the New York adventure, which I loved. And they made some very specific references. And if you want to know the history of the Rocketeer, there is this amazing back matter by Kevin Mao, and it's going to be in all the issues. Dave Stevens, an oral history of the Rocketeer. Again, Dave Stevens is no longer with us, but Kevin got a lot of perspectives from people that Dave worked very closely with about the creation and the execution of the Rocketeer when that was being published. And it's also in the format, if you know, it's a particular format that a lot of music books like Please Kill Me have used, and where there is narrative and then there's a direct quote and the narrative and a direct quote. There's a book about Saturday Night Live which is like that too. I'm sure there's many others, but it's a really novel way of telling, uh, a true life story. And that's going to be that back matter is going to be in all the issues. But back to the main story. Again, I said it takes place right after the New York adventure. Um, we're on the precipice of the war at that point of World War II. People are really paranoid. There's word in California where Cliff Secord, the Rocketeer, lives that there's Nazis in the woods. And he's initially thinking, God, this is just, kids telling tales. Goes out, finds, yeah, there really are Nazis in the Redwoods. So, and they kick the shit out of him. So he survives, but he's ready to give up being the Rocketeer and enlist in the army and serve that way and serve America that way. And again, he has the girlfriend Betty, which is based on Betty Page, and she's completely on board for this because she's really worried about him getting hurt. But he meets an inventor, and the inventor's created this experimental aircraft, and to show it off, that's where the great race comes in, which is going to be a race from California to Paris. Betty sees this as a free trip to Paris. She's all for it. So they head over. And the second issue is mostly concerned with finding out about the race and some of the other participants. There is the Baron, who is a Nazi flyer, and it's stereotypical as hell, but it still works because uh, the Rocketeer is the kind of property where you can be very over the top. My favorite new character, though, and I've waxed poetic many times, both with Steve Bryan on the show and without, about Athena Voltaire. I just have this love of fictional aviatrixes, and we're introduced to Debbie Seville, which is kind of a nice counterpart for Cliff. And it's also nice to see Betty getting jealous because, Betty's the one that's always getting chased. And in this case, it's Cliff. So there's a lot of fun. The second issue is a bit heavy on the exposition, but they all do very good work. The only criticism I have is Stephen Mooney, who is the writer and artist. I think this is only his second writing credit. He had another series over at IDW, and let me just get the name of that because it looks very Rocketeer-ish, and I really want to check that out. And it is called, drumroll, Half Past Danger. So I do want to check that out. I'm sure it's collected. Um, and there's some weird dialogue choices. They use words like calling the Germans Krauts, which was prevalent in the early 1940s in the States. But then they also use the term like boots on the ground. And I don't think that got any kind of traction or any kind of use in culture until like the 90s or so. So it was there's some imbalances there. uh, and again, this Stephen Mooney, he's done a lot of work for licensed titles. I know him a little bit from a few issues of Midnighter and a few issues of Grayson, and he also did a Black Widow series. But it's very strong, and he draws a hell of a plane and a hell of a Nazi. So that's that's good, I think, for anybody's CV. And it's clearly the Rocketeer. It is the Rocketeer, which is something really nice to see, especially since the creator could no longer craft new stories involving Cliff and his world. Yeah, I don't know what
Ben
that's
R.
about. Yeah.
Ben R asks, "Is it Rocketeer Cannonball Run?" And I think that's kind of more of a
Okay.
reference to.
Yeah, it may be. I don't think the span of characters is as broad as Cannonball Run. And believe me, I must have seen Cannonball Run like 25 times in my life. And probably a fifth of those in the theaters. What
So
about
could it be?
food, son? You got food? Plenty. I know like almost every line from the Cannonball Run.
See,
I
in
don't.
my
I don't
experience, it
think.
wasn't Cannonball Run.
Yeah.
It was
Rat
Rat
Race?
Race.
Okay.
And what was the other
The
one?
race. I'm winning the
Rat Race,
race.
basically.
There's a
Jump on a squirrel.
there's a wonderful old movie. It's terrible, but it's wonderful to watch called Scavenger Hunt, which is basically the same film as Rat Race, and it's on Kino Cult if you have that free app.
Okay.
And oh my god, I still know all these lines from, and it's like every sort of like late 70s actor is in it. Who was Starbuck, Dirk Benedict.
Dirk Benedict.
Willie Ames is in it. Roddy McDowell, so it's all people like that. And there's Richard Benjamin, and there's this wonderful character actress. I wish she had some traction, named Stephanie Faracy. And there's a part where one of the items is a toilet from a high-end hotel, and in the machinations, the toilet got broken. But in the meantime, she named the toilet Montclair. And so she's a French major. Oh, they killed Montclair, and it's like it's not funny, but it's so charming. So if you can find Scavenger Hunt, but back to again, Steve, you promised the tangent, so there we go. But I do understand about Cannonball Run, but I don't think they're broadcasting the the broad character strokes. They're not focusing on as many as you do in that film. So, but I get it, and the good way of putting it, but it's a bit more restricted than that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well,
And Debbie Seville is
personally,
such a cool character. I wanted Debbie Seville. I wanted Debbie Seville mini after
just
this.
a whole book, a whole series of her maybe would be an interesting follow up to this. I mean, I haven't read anything Rocketeer in probably 30 years. Because obviously it came out. The film came out in like the early 90s. And that's where I first heard about the character, and then they had some comic book tie-ins and things like that for the film. But that's pretty much it that I've read from him. And I know that there's been revivals, that there's been sporadic series here and there, return to the character. But yeah, my
it's
knowledge
it's only because again, most of his early appearances were backups. So the actual Dave Stevens Rocketeer storyline it can't be more than 200 pages. And they're in a very affordable. Like I got a hardcover, and the hardcover was less than 25.
Oh wow!
Yeah, so you can find it, and it's so worth it. And just beautiful artwork and beautiful, unofficial crossovers. Let's put it that way, of pulp era characters, and it's just a wonderful thing. I think that anybody should read because it's just good comics. It's plain and simple good comics. So
that's cool.
Search if maybe at Heroes we'll find the Rocketeer for you. We'll find the Dave.
You know what? I bet we will. I bet somebody will have that in the $5 trade table. That please don't let me linger too long, please. Although hey, I won't be flying anywhere with them, so I guess it's okay for me to collect a whole bunch.
Hey, you know me,
but they'll just go in the pile.
And as you can attest, we do make our little pilgrimage to the post office, so I don't have to fly back with us.
Hey, we've done that like every year.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, we've got that whole Monday. We're going to be hitting up the post office.
Yep.
So, cool.
In the heat. Okay.
In the heat.
Wow, we did good on time this week.
Yeah.
we can wrap up and we don't have to accelerate it. So I'm very glad to see that. So again, as I just referred to, we are wrapping up an episode of the Comic Book Bears, and when we do so with a segment we call the Woofs of the Week segment. And the bear community, if you find a fella attractive, you woof at him, and we do something similar where we woof at something that may be a comic book or a TV program or a charitable initiative, anything under the sun that we think you, fair listener, or if you're streaming in fair viewer, may be interested in sampling. I'll start as I always do with Steve. Steve, what is your woof of the week?
Well, so I got just a quick mention because it finally was released on digital, for purchase, and that is Everything Everywhere All at Once. I talked about it as a wolf several months ago when I saw it in the theater, but it is now available if you want to stream it at home. I think it's pretty much on all of the streaming purchase sites, so Amazon Prime, Vudu, etc. You can buy it. It will be out in disc, I believe, next month. So if you're waiting for that, you can get it on disc, or you can just get the digital copy right now. But my actual wolf for the week is going to be the return of the series that I believe was canceled from I guess it was Fox a couple of years back, and then picked up again by Hulu, and it's been kind of in development and production in Hulu, and just finally came back to our screens, and that is The Orville for season 3. Now that we've had Star Trek Strange New Worlds, which is basically returned to that old sort of Monster of the Week storytelling, New Journey storytelling kind of.
We got to talk about it because it's so good.
Oh, it's so
Strange
amazing.
New Worlds
it's
is so
amazing.
good. It's so
love
Star
it.
Trek.
I love everybody in it. I love all the actors.
It's the
I love
most
all the
Star
stories.
Trekkiest Star Trek
So
to
much
Trek
fun.
in a long time.
Exactly.
It's
it's
and
so the
good.
Orville, and I have to say, like, the Orville kind of started off as a parody series. They didn't take themselves too seriously, especially in the first season, where it just sort of took all the tropes that you would get in Star Trek: The Next Generation, Star Trek Voyager, those kind of shows, and just really play it up with a lot more modern style dialogue. People sort of being flippant and informal and just being goofy and whatnot. But it still was endearing and had characters that were just really fun to watch and fun to watch grow over the series. And it's been off the air for a couple of years, but now it's back on Hulu. It's coming out weekly, I believe, on Thursdays. So happens to be around the same time that Strange New Worlds is going to be on. So you can watch one on Paramount Plus and then watch the other on Hulu. But it's a lot of fun. Really interesting premise to start off this season. Picking up right after the events of season 2, and introducing a whole new enemy species in the second episode already. So it's pretty good. Episode 3, I believe, is tomorrow. Check it out if you like those sci-fi fun series.
Okay, over to Bryan. Bryan, what is your wolf of the week?
So as I alluded to earlier, there is another Kickstarter, and it is the writer from Hulkling and Wiccan #1, Josh Trujillo, with art by Josh Cornelon. I hope I'm saying their name right. I am going to try a screen share. We're going to hope that it works because, sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't. Hey, there you go. So Pool Boys, a poolside romance comic book. As you can see, it is already funded, so it is a sure thing as far as Kickstarters go.
Cool.
But I have been privy to some of the art inside. He sends now that I'm a backer, I get some of the preview art.
Mm-hmm.
And what I've been following Josh, both the Joshes, but Cornelon has been doing these very sexy X-Men at various times on Twitter and Instagram, I believe. And he does just have a lovely art style with lots of different body shapes and lots of different inclusive illustrations. So I am very excited by this. I don't know how spicy this is going to be, but some of the artwork suggests that it is, adultish, let's say. But yeah, it's backed. It's fully funded now, over 6,000. Very, very modest goal. And so it is very successful. But there's still 46 days. They made a very long period of time. So if you want to back this, there's still plenty of time to go get it. Both now when you're watching this live and hopefully when you hear it. So go look up Pool Boys, a gay romance, a gay demon romance. So yeah, any of those words and you'll find it. Very excited for this.
I just checked out
David.
this Kickstarter because I'm totally doing this one. And the levels are based around pool activity. So there's the sunscreen level, the Speedo level, sunglasses level, sun hat, margarita, caftan, sun umbrella, cabana, bungalow. I love that.
Caftan. So David Toby also just backed that Kickstarter as well. So yeah, I mean, it sounds like it might be something to.
One more image. I forgot to scroll down. This gives you a taste for the level of fun that awaits. And again, if you have not seen Josh Cornelon's art, you've got to check him out. He's a great artist, very fun, very great style. I'm very excited. So yes, you should all back this.
Awesome.
Thank you. You have successfully backed Pool Boys, a gay demon boy romance. All right, there we go.
Yay!
Sometimes you can be an easy mark. All right. All right. Live as it happened. Okay, for my Woof of the Week, if you are familiar with my Facebook page, you'll know that for the past few years, I've been watching an episode a day or a film a day in some instances of DC comic properties in film and TV. So I started way back before I started posting them. I was doing the serials and then went through all of Adventures of Superman and Batman 66. I started posting it when we got to the 70s with Super Friends. I'm into the late 90s now, and we have hit Batman Beyond. So it's interesting rewatching this because I remember when this did air, it kind of was, there were some elements of Batman Beyond that were totally, especially the beautiful opening sequence. And you know who directed the opening sequence? Darwin Cook. And that's an art style I don't think you necessarily associate with him. But there were definite like anime and cyberpunk, particularly cyberpunk elements to it. And at the time, I just remember it was kind of cutting edge, and now it all seems so quaint. Um, it's 23 years later, but it's 23 years later, and this last month, I think there were 3 comics that Terry McGinnis was in. So it's still a character that matters. If you're an investor, some of those early Batman Beyond issues, oh baby, you can buy a nice coat or something. I don't know why a coat came into mind, but I still want my Langlet's leather jacket. But Batman Beyond, I'm holding the physical copy of the first season. It ended up running for 3 seasons for 52 episodes. Again, by many of the same people that were behind Batman the Animated Series, and takes place with Bruce Wayne in his 70s, mentoring a young new Batman, Terry McGinnis, and hijinks ensue. There are some issues with it. He never developed a really interesting rogues gallery, by my estimation. But there is also a very interesting supporting cast that is eventually built around Terry. And it's really fun revisiting something. All of these rewatches have been fun. I mean, some are been rough, man. The Swamp Thing live action series and the Plastic Man series in the 70s. Ooh, woo!
I can't believe that you watched through that whole Swamp Thing series, because I remember watching that on USA. Because it was late Friday night or Saturday night on USA.
Friday nights,
and it was just one of those things where it's like you could tell by the end that they had just run out of money. Recycling, like there weren't even sets anymore. It was just, let's just be outside in the swamp and then we'll have props. Like that's it. Like there's nothing, like nobody goes inside a house because we don't have a house yet, or whatever. It was very interesting, and then got really psychedelic too in certain ones.
With certain parts, yeah. Yeah.
Like Arcane, like the trial of Arcane. It's
Yeah.
all in his head, and some really interesting things. But
Yeah.
yeah, by the end, unfortunately,
Yeah, no, it was it
hard
was
to
rough,
watch.
but there's still a charm to it. There's still a charm to Superboy from
Mhm.
the late '80s. But yeah, I'm watching everything. I'm gonna stop at Arrow because I think by the time I get to that, all the other stuff is so fresh in the mind that I don't need. And some of the stuff like Swamp Thing, when that was out, I was in my early 20s. I wasn't watching TV on a Friday night.
Mhm.
I was doing things that people in their 20s do. Same thing with Batman the animated series. There's a lot of stuff I didn't see firsthand, which
Mm.
was interesting. And then and there's also sometimes when you did watch on terrestrial TV, you would catch the same episode like 5 times. Yeah, you know. Um,
Repeat
so that's
when it was
been
on 5 nights a week.
that time. Oh my God! Eventually with the Warner shows, they repeated
Mhm.
those so often in the late '90s. But I'm up to late 1999. I got Smallville ahead of me. I got Teen Titans ahead of me. I got Justice League and Justice League Unlimited. I got a lot of stuff to go. The
Don't forget the
2000s are going
Legion,
to
like
take a while.
the Legion of
Oh yeah, Legion's in there.
Superheroes.
Crypto
Yeah,
is coming out in July.
yeah.
I already have all the episodes, that I burned to DVD. But
Mhm.
there's a series of that, so I'm watching everything. And
See, Smallville.
I've been able to watch everything except for they had a second season of Plastic Man, and this is when he had a son, Baby Plaz, and there was a Plastic Man, a Baby Plaz, and the Plastic Family segments. Those just are not in circulation. There's maybe 3 or 4 cartoons from that are in circulation, but everything else I've been able to track down and watch.
Now, a Smallville
Yeah.
rewatch, I could totally get into that because I came to that show a little bit late.
Hmm.
So when I think it was probably season 5 was when
Yeah.
I started watching it weekly, and so I had to go back and get seasons 1 through 4 on DVD in those big sets, one of those Best Buy, Black Friday sales where they were $10 a piece, and
Yeah.
just we just blasted through all of them, caught up, and we were watching it weekly religiously through season
Hmm.
10 through
Yeah.
the end.
And that's
So I
also a
could do
show
that again. I
where,
could totally do
yeah,
it.
that's also a show where it got better.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Oh yeah.
yeah, there was the peak is not the first season at all.
Well, because they were
Yeah,
really worried about making it too comic booky. I think at first,
right. And I think they were also
there
a
were all these
little too,
rules, like no
yeah,
Superboy, no Superman. It had
no
to
tights,
be
no flight. Yeah,
no tights, no
uh,
flight. Like it had to be
and
very, very strict about it.
they kind of followed the Buffy model a little too closely.
Yep.
But again, it's like a classic CW series. Every third episode, someone has to say, "I thought you were my friend," and too many people end up in the hospital.
You just
Um,
wouldn't understand.
yeah,
The amount of people that ended up in that
end up in the
hospital.
hospital. It's
The
just
Kents would have had a ward on their own.
yeah.
So Ben R also says there were 10 seasons of Smallville.
Yeah.
Yes, there were 10
10
seasons of Smallville.
seasons.
Now, not every actor made it through. I think
Yeah.
Lex
I think
Luthor left about
yeah.
season
I
8.
did
Kristen
Lana go
Croy.
through the hole? Yeah, she
Oh,
didn't make it through the
no,
hole.
she left. Lana left
No.
season 6 or so.
I
She went
think
off
I
to
think it's just Clark
be a
and Chloe.
star.
I
Yeah,
think
Clark and Chloe.
I think are the only ones.
Did Chloe last through season 7?
Chloe lasted. Yeah,
Season
she was there
10?
at the end. Yeah, she was there at the
Okay,
end.
yeah, because I know that Lana
Yeah.
was more or less replaced by Lois. Once Lois came on full
Yeah.
time, she pretty much became the main.
Yeah. And I
the main
love
sweetie
Erica
of the universe.
Durance. I love
Oh,
her.
she was so good.
Yeah, I love
She was
her.
so good in that. And you know who else was good? The actress who played Lex's sister.
Yeah.
She was fantastic. Just that. Just was so good.
Yeah.
And redhead, of course. So everybody.
They
loves
did
her.
have sequel series in comics. The first were digital comics to Smallville 11 and 12. And what happens to Lex's sister? She becomes a superhero.
Oh,
It is
cool.
pretty. It actually works. Yeah,
because her arc was so good. Like her arc was a
Yeah.
true character story arc. Like she started off as some creepy, conniving, scheming person, and then really found a voice and found a place, especially through some really tragic stuff. David here says Smallville would not survive the idea that hitting someone on the head so hard that they pass out and then getting back up and being okay is not a thing. It really isn't. You hit somebody in the head so hard they pass out, they would be filling up those
Kansas
wards
it is.
in hospitals.
Yeah,
Smallville, Kansas. They must make those skulls pretty thick. And then he also says, 20-something CEOs. Yeah, it's amazing how many companies.
I've been that. I'm 23 and I run a multimedia conglomerate with offices. And
I'm a defense
split
contractor billionaire.
I split my time between Smallville, Kansas, and the Orient. And also you never got this. The only thing that was frustrating is you never got an idea where Metropolis was in that series because it was driving distance, sort of. But
and I don't know how. Like it was driving distance, but it was also on the coast.
Yeah,
I think there was. Yeah, it was on the coast.
Yeah,
and I don't know what part of Kansas has a lot of beautiful mountains and redwood forests. Lots of waterfalls and big ravines. Just like what you think of when you think of Kansas.
Yeah. Annette O'Toole, who played Martha Kent on the series, was recently on Michael Rosenbaum's show, Inside of You, and so there's some really funny stories of Michael Rosenbaum was talking about how high he and Michael McKean got when Michael McKean, who's Annette O'Toole's husband, guessed it as Perry White. He said he would have thought it was Snoop Dogg when they opened their trailer.
Oh God,
there's some funny stuff there.
I always had a crush on Mike Rosenbaum. I mean, I should say for somebody who's playing a character who's all their hair has been wiped from their head. He was one of the hairiest dudes.
Yeah, I don't have a Smallville crush. I don't.
Tom Welling. Tom Welling aged well.
He did age well. And looks very good with facial hair.
Oh yeah. Well, him in what was it, season 3 and 4 of Lucifer.
Actually, one of my favorite Tom Welling roles, and you know me with football. There's a movie Draft Day with Kevin Costner, and Tom Welling plays the quarterback on the Cleveland Browns, and it's a small part, but he does a lot with it because he's kind of on the he's on the chopping block because of his performances and on the field, and it's really, and who else is in that? John Diggle, what's his name? David. He's one of the trainers.
David, yeah.
Him. He's speaking of CW shows. He's
we're gonna remember his name after we stop. But yeah, I mean I love him too. He's great.
I can't remember your name, but I love you.
Yeah, love you if you're listening.
All right. So sorry for the Smallville tangent, but Batman Beyond.
Batman Beyond. So watch Batman Beyond.
Yeah, so we're going to wrap this one in a bow. Again, we are the Comic Book Bears Podcast. You can find us on the Facebook as Comic Book Bears Podcast. You can find us on the Twitter and the Tumblr and the Instagram as Comic Book Bears. You can find us on Apple Podcasts if you want to download us. Some people still do the MP3s, baby. David Ramsey, thank you very much, fellow David. Yeah. I don't want to think about how we might have butchered that going forward. And you can also catch us listening to us through Stitcher Radio and many of the other podcatching platforms. If you want to write to us, please do so by sending an email to comicbookbears@gmail.com. If you've been watching us through our live stream, thank you very much for joining us. If you're watching us later on YouTube, thank you very much, and please leave a review. And until next time, I'm Bill Zanowitz.
I'm Bryan Pittard.
And I'm Steve Morey.
You're going to hear a wolf and an explosion if you're listening to the audio version. We'll be back real soon. Take care, everyone.
Bye.
Goodbye.
Woof, boom.
So long.
Woof, boom.